Oh, man, I love it, buddy. All right, everybody, I am Coach Mad Mike.
Oh, yeah!
We are out here for football Psyche. This is our launch. Go ahead, introduce yourself there, Large Sarge.
Large Sarge, come in.
Oh, my goodness, man, it's out of control. But anyway, I just wanted to share with you real quick to welcome you to our launch of football Psyche. And we are going to be talking about all kinds of stuff, everything football. And I hope you guys love it. Ray, what are we going to be talking about on this channel?
We're going to be talking football. We're going to be talking coaching. We're going to be talking about what's happening in the NFL. We're going to be talking about the combine. We're going to be talking about draft picks.
Yes, we will. And you know what? We will not only comment, but we will probably trash talk him quite a bit because that's what fans do. And that's who we are.
So let me put on my reading glasses so we can get down to business.
All right, buddy. But hey, listen, as much as we like to rock out, we're going to pause the music here real quick and get back to what we're getting ready to talk about here. And let's start off real quick. Let's talk about the NFL schedule because right now, as you guys are all listening right now, we are on the eve.
Wait, Coach Mike.
Period.
Coach Mike.
Yeah.
Mad Mike. No good sportscast begins without a good draft. Oh, my God.
There you go, buddy. So anyway,
we're in.
We are in. It is the 10th of March. We are on the eve of the negotiating period of unrestricted free agency. And the real free agency starts on March 13th. It's an exciting period, but things have already happened in this league. And because this is our very first episode, this has been a crazy offseason already. There's some things that you want to talk about because not only is the free agency going to have, which I imagine is just going to be freaking bonkers, getting ready to get to the NFL draft, but we have so many things that have already happened in the league already.
Too many things.
But you wanted to talk about a couple quarterbacks. What do you got?
I got the Patriots trading Mac Jones to the Jags for the 6th round pick. Mac Jones is going to back up Trevor. Now, who's going to coach who in that slot? And does Mac Jones take over? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And you know what? I don't know first of all, I think Jaguars got a steal. I mean, a 6th round pick? Wasn't this guy like a first rounder?
He's not a first rounder. He's had a 3-year dry sand career. Could he relight his career?
Yeah, but so Large Sarge, here. So here's the deal here's what I think about Mac Jones. I actually think Mac Jones is a pretty good quarterback, right? But here's the issue that I see with Mac Jones, right? First of all, he goes into a situation with the Patriots. He goes in there and he's in this situation where he has to replace a legend in Tom Brady. And I don't care who you are, those are big shoes to fill, right? And so you go in there and it doesn't go exactly the way you wanted to. You're a rookie. And okay, you've been there for the past few years now or whatever, but that's kind of tough. And it's hard to adjust him to the NFL. But then you're going to turn around and trade him for a 6th round. I mean, is Bill Belichick basically saying that this guy is a bust?
Well, Belichick ain't saying that because Belichick ain't there anymore.
That's true, but so it is a new coaching staff. So that's a good point. It's a good point. So anyway,
I think with the proper coaching, Belichick could have produced a Mac Jones that was a top quarterback. And I think Mac Jones going to the Jags and playing under Trevor, who's got a bit more mobility, a bit more pass proclivity, I think it's going to teach him something to get his accuracy up to stop preventing all those damn picks.
So, yeah, I got you. So, I don't know, but do you think that this was a good deal for the Jaguars?
Thumbs up.
You do? You like that?
I love it. I think he's a perfect backup for Trevor.
I mean, it's a good way to throw a 6th round pick around, right?
Could be worse.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Let's move on to Russell Wilson. You got Russell Wilson up here.
Oh, my God. $85 million cap hit to the Broncos. Ah!
Hey, but they did it to themselves. I mean, here's the problem I have around the league, right? So you get these guys around the league, and teams have got to get smarter about this. Like, if you're going to go out there and get these massive deals with these massive amounts of guaranteed money within their contract, lock them up long term. Quarterbacks are expensive to be with. Like, you have to hit on that, because if you don't hit on that, like, what, you're just going to cut bait and set your team back? Because I'm telling you right now, the Broncos went backwards for a minimum of 2 years. Minimum.
Easily.
You don't have money just to go out and sign another guy like that. You're gonna be
Coach Mad Mike. Where does he land?
Well, see, I've heard a lot of people talk about Pittsburgh, right? And I don't know if I think that that's a very good fit. And I heard that he went into the facility, they like talked to him, and he left, no contract signed.
And you don't think he's a good fit for Pittsburgh?
I think there might be a.
I think he's a great fit for Pittsburgh.
Why do you say that?
He's got the experience, he's got the depth, and he's got the receivers.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I think that way. I mean, first of all, here's what Russell Wilson's got going against him. He's 36 years old, and he's coming off of 2 horrific seasons in Denver. And I'm thinking, like, where's a good situation for him to go? I mean, I know he's going to want to start. So if he goes to Pittsburgh, okay, he's going to walk in there and
he's
start.
He's going to beat out Pickett. He's going to beat him out.
Yeah, and who do they have right now? Who is it, Ritter, or who do they have? Pickett. So, I mean,
and he's the greatest person to bring in over top of Pickett to teach Pickett the game, the strategy, the game planning. I think it's a smart move for the Steelers to pick him up, if they can afford him.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm looking up. I'm looking up part of what I'm seeing on the roster right now, because you bring up a valid point. Can they afford him? I mean, that's a big one, right? And one of the favorite tools I like using is over the cap, right, to kind of really understand where their cap situation is and so forth. So,
absolutely.
They got Pickett, they got Rudolph. I don't really know how serious they are about Rudolph, but so you bring Pickett, Pickett's definitely coming back, right? So, if he goes into that situation, I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean, wide receiver wise, who do they have over there?
They got a few marks in that background there. They got a few marks that Russell Wilson could take advantage of. Trust me.
Yeah. I'm not.
And I think the system is a fit for him as well.
Okay, I'm interested in that. I think that's going to be one definitely to watch. I'm going to have to study them up a little bit more to kind of understand it. Because again, we didn't talk about this in our introductions, but like, I'm a Redskins guy. I mean, I know we're the Commanders now.
I'm a Lions guy.
Yeah, but the real hardcore Commanders fans are really Redskins fans. Let's just be honest with you. I'm still torn on the name change. I know you're kind of a closet Redskins fan yourself.
Number 2 team. Number 2.
Yeah.
Number 2.
So I'm one of those guys that look at our team right now. I mean, I've followed this team ever since I was a little kid. So I remember the days of John Riggins and Joe Gibbs. I was 14 years old when they won their first Super Bowl. I was 17 when they won their second. I was 21 years old.
I watched the championship game in the Super Bowl when I was in grade school on TV. They put that Super Bowl game on the TV.
That's right. So like I'm with you, man. So like we've been through many decades now of a dry spell. I mean, it's decades of a dry spell. I mean, we're in our 50s. I'm like, what the flip? Like, we can't seem to put it together over there. But anyway, I mean, we'll get to Commanders / Redskins news here in a little bit. But like, going back to Russell Wilson, so there's not a lot of teams in my perspective that seem to be a very, very good fit for him. Are you surprised that he left Pittsburgh without signing a contract?
You mean he left the Broncos?
No, the Steelers. Like, he actually did a visit.
Yeah, he did a visit, and apparently the news is very good that there was some connection there.
Yeah, but you know how I am, man. You don't let a guy leave a building.
Yeah, true.
Don't let a guy leave the building
Wilson's
without
not coming at a cheap price tag either. He's going to come with a pretty hefty price tag, so the Steelers are going to have to make some room to bring him in.
Yeah, and maybe the longer you let him sit, the longer you make him sweat it out, his price will start coming down.
Yep.
Yeah, you think so?
Yep, I agree.
All right, man. Well, hey, your news around the league, those were some two pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of news going around the league. I mean, there's a whole lot more than this. But it's
all about to get dirty.
Yeah, but for our first show here, for our grand opening of Football Psych, I mean, we can't cover everything, right? So, but I think that's pretty good stuff. So I'm gonna take this one down for a little bit, and I want to talk about something because you're a Lions fan. You had an interesting offseason. First of all, last year, I'm sorry, bro. When I look at Detroit Lions, because just like the Commanders, your number 2 team, the Lions is my number 2 team because we play the Lions when we play Madden with one another, right? And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the Lions and they set history. First time in 32 years they win a playoff game. Everybody's going bonkers, right? And we turn around and I actually really felt like this team had a real shot of going all the way until, and I'm just going to throw it out there because I know that the fans, there's probably some Lions fans that are going to be watching this show are going to probably disagree with me, but I don't care, right? I'm going to just tell you what I feel about it. I'm not sure that coach knew what the flip he was doing. Like, you kicked the freaking field goals. And he was asked about this. And so I want to play you a video, and then I want your commentation on this. I want you to tell me what you think about it there, Coach Large Sarge. All right, so let's play this thing.
Well,
2 fourth-down decisions that were critical in the second half. Neither one was converted. Particularly the second one. Why not take a field goal there and maybe stem the bleeding a little bit?
Yeah, that just felt really good about us converting and getting our momentum and not letting them play long ball. They were bleeding the clock out. That's what they do. And I wanted to get the upper hand back, and it's easy hindsight, and I get it,
Stop it. I can't take it anymore. Stop it.
You got to help me out there.
I have been. So my first game in the NFL was the Redskins versus the Giants in the rain with my dad.
That's right. I was there with you.
You weren't there with me.
What game was I with you at? I was at some of the Lions games.
We were at the Packers Skins game in the playoffs.
In the playoffs?
Aaron Rodgers schooled our ass. So I was a Redskins fan from the get-go. My first game with the Giants in the rain with my dad, we lost. But I got hooked. And I've been a Redskins fan forever. But my dad was a Lions fan. And it took me 10 years or so to get into the Lions physique and listening to my dad cry and complain and bitch every year about how bad the draft was, how bad things were for the Lions, etc. And I became an underdog Lions fan. And I have been watching the Lions grow.
Underdogs, man.
Just like Bitcoin. Up and down, up and down. And finally, the Lions made it back to the playoffs with a coach who was a prior Lions fan, who was a man, who is aggressive and has instilled that in his team. We're going to go for it no matter what. To watch him in the playoffs do the untenable, unthinkable, idiot move of not taking the points.
All right, dude, you and I, we play Madden, man. I'm telling you, like, even though we're Madden coaches, and I did coach a little bit of high school football and stuff like that. I'm telling you right now, there, Coach Large Sarge, I take the points any freaking day of the week, dude. You always take the points.
The master of team dissection, team planning, offensive coordination, Mr. Tom Brady, who, while I'm not his biggest fan, no one can argue with the man's understanding of the game and planning his other games.
Legit.
Came out and said, "Oh yeah, I would take the points." Well, no crap.
Man, I should have pulled up a clip on him, man, because you know what? He and I think the same way. You know what? You take the freaking points. And you know what? He cost the team that game. And I don't care because I know all the players come out and support him. Of course, you got to love on your coach and all that kind of stuff. Like, ooh, we just kind of built that thing. We always go for it. Well, you live by it and you die by it, right? And in that particular situation, you died by it. You know, to me, I don't know, man. I just find that
I love the team. I love the support behind the coach. I love it, but that doesn't win you games.
Dude, we watched that game on TV.
Coaching wins you games. And in that situation, screw the mathematics, screw the computations. You go with the momentum.
The funny part about it is when we were watching that game, man, you were just like, he needs to be fired. He needs to be fired.
I still say Dan Campbell needs to be fired. He cost the team a Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah, you know it wasn't going to happen, though.
Campbell is an idiot.
Yeah, but you know it wasn't going to happen because, you know, flat out, you know, he took a team and won a playoff game for the first time in 32 years. He's a hero.
Great career. You know? I love it. Not my head coach. See you later. Get out because you don't know how to finish a game. Sorry, it's it. I love you, Dan Campbell. You're an amazing coach. You're a great motivator. But you know what you should be? An offensive coordinator. You're not a head coach because any proper head coach in his right mind would have taken the points both times. And you know what that would have done? It would have given you the edge. It would have given you a 3-point score instead of a 2.1. You don't know that your star running back's going to fumble and change the momentum of the game, and you lost the momentum in the game by not taking the points.
You're absolutely
right. The end of the story. We were in the Super Bowl, and we could have totally beat the 49ers.
Totally.
No questions asked. We could have beat them.
And this is what frustrates me about coaches in the NFL, right? Is they all acknowledge that momentum's a huge part of the game. But when there's that critical moment, they act like momentum's not part of the game. It's just like, it just completely blows my mind. Like you had momentum on your side. And then as soon as you miss that, you completely destroyed it. And you basically let momentum walk on over to the other sideline and said, I'm here now. I'm not on your side no more. I'm on their side.
It's huge. It's everything, actually, for that team on the field in that moment. Momentum is everything.
But they had another opportunity.
Coach screws the momentum like Dan Campbell did. It cost you in close games like that one. And that wasn't even a close game before he did it. He screwed the pooch. It wasn't even close.
You guys were dominating before then. And then all of a sudden,
almost as bad as the loss as the Falcons versus the Patriots.
But before we move on to that, I mean, they had a second chance to try to make the play call right. And he still goes for it and loses it.
That's right.
Instead of tying the ball game up.
That's right. I can't forgive it. I know I'm wearing the blue jersey. I got it. You know, it's Large Sarge. Oh, you can't see my back, but it's, you know, I'm a Lion through and through. But the Lions are going to have a lot to do to catch up to back where they were last year. And there was a hell of a lot of luck in getting that deep into the playoffs. There was a hell of a lot of luck involved. They did not honestly have the team to get that far, my opinion. Defensively, they did not have the team to get that deep. They got lucky.
Well, let's talk about
thank God, did not screw up all the way through, which he had done. He was very on and very off.
Right.
The defense was the failure in the Lions, period, in the secondary, which we'll get into in another vid. But nonetheless, I think they have a chance to get to the playoffs. Whether they can go deep this year depends on the draft and how they make their moves on the defense. So anyway, Dan Campbell, you don't get my vote of support. I hated your decisions in there. I think you're wrong, and I don't care how much your players try to support you. Being too aggressive and not smart is stupid in the NFL.
You know what I love about it? Going back to that video, him rubbing his face. Oh, like as soon as he asked the question, you had two fourth down opportunities to kick field goals. He's over there like,
yeah. I mean, that should tell you. I don't know. I mean, really? If you are that confident in your decision, then you should stand straight in the camera and say, I made that decision because I believe in my offense and they could do it. But you didn't. You went, I don't know.
Tells me badly enough to kick the field goal, apparently.
Yeah. And you know what? Very frankly, I agree with the stats. Badgley, before coming to the Lions, was not mathematically predictable to make that. I get it.
I don't.
With the Lions this season, Badgley was on freaking point.
Well, that's it. That's the reason why I have to disagree with you there, Large Sarge, because when I look at stats, I look at what have you done for me lately? I don't look at stats that you did like 3 years ago. You've grown as a player, supposedly, right? So I'm looking at what have you did this year? What did you do last year? All right. I don't really care beyond that point because I care about your data points, and he was on point. He
was totally on point this season.
What do you think you have a higher probability?
Campbell should have relied on that leg to get him through the hoop.
Yeah, but I'm sitting here looking at it analytically. What's the higher probability? Is the higher probability that you trust on a kicker that could probably kick it 80, 95%? Or do the analytics tell you go for it on 4th down, which I don't know what the percentages are, 30, 40%? I don't know what it is. I mean, I would like to believe that a kicker would have a higher probability percentage of putting points on the board.
Always, right? So, that's why you have the kicker.
That's why you got a kicker.
You pay the guy the money, right?
He's on the payroll. He's on the payroll.
He's got to do the job, and he proved through the year that he could do the job. But in the clutch moment, Dan Campbell said, "No, I'm not relying on you." And I think that's a travesty against Badgley because I think he's a fantastic kicker.
Well, we gotta talk about the future here, Large Sarge. So moving forward, a very interesting offseason. You almost lost Ben Johnson because Ben Johnson was like recruited by every available head coaching job that was out there. And then all of a sudden he decides to stay. Aaron Glenn, your defensive coordinator, he was on just about everybody's coaching candidacy list. I don't think he was close to signing anywhere, but he was at least in the discussion. And somehow your team held both your coordinators together.
Well, here's my opinion on Ben Johnson. I know there are going to be haters out there, and that's fine. Ben Johnson's not ready for a head coach position.
You don't think so?
Something went wrong in that playoff game with San Fran between Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell. Because if I was the OC during that game, I'd have told him to kick the damn field goal and screw you. But he didn't, and Dan Campbell overrode him. Apparently, we don't know because
that is a head coach's job, right? Head coach, if he tells you we're going for it.
I'm really curious what exactly Ben Johnson told Dan Campbell in those two situations. And those two
we'll never know
recommendations would decide for me how good Ben Johnson really is. At the end of the day, I don't think Ben Johnson's ready for prime time because I don't think the Lions got where they got overall without a hell of a lot of luck. And they did have a hell of a lot of luck. Finally, I bless it. But at the end of the day, there were some pretty bad coaching calls with the Lions along the way. And from the fan perspective, I don't understand how much influence Ben Johnson had over Dan Campbell in terms of game plan, situational call plays, etc. So I don't think he's ready yet. I think this season is going to prove how good Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson really are as a team.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you. I'm just be honest with you there, Large Sarge. I am actually shocked that they both returned back because especially Ben Campbell, he was considered the number one coaching candidate out there, and he didn't go with anybody. It was just shocking. And you know what? The other thing that kind of surprised me was that Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll were both ousted their jobs, and neither one of them picked up another head coaching job.
Says something about the league, right?
Yeah, I guess they're just trying to get younger or something.
So, Mad Mike, I'm going to tell you, the reason Ben Johnson didn't get a job is because he was too freaking the NFL hype behind how good he is was so overhyped that Ben Johnson thought his value was much higher than what it really was. And I think at the end of the day, he realized he had a better chance under Dan Campbell and the Lions than he did going anywhere else.
Ah, man, that was hard for me to swallow because from the standpoint, like it's a huge payday, right? It's a huge payday from a head coach from an OC. OC makes about 1 to 1.5 a year. A head coach can make anywhere from 8 to 15 to 20.
So what does that tell you about his self-value, self-worth, that he wasn't going to go for the money? He was going to stay with the team where he helped develop. What does that tell you?
Well, that's one way to look at it. Or you could look at it like maybe he had an overinflated value in his head, and when he got before other teams, they were like, no, we don't rate you that high. We were thinking about more of the $8 million, and maybe you're thinking 20, and we're like, yeah, get out of here. We're not signing you for that. And then he burnt all those bridges of teams because he was too greedy in his asking price, and he had nowhere else to go but back home to Detroit.
Which brings up an entirely different subject that I love talking with you about there, Coach Mad Mike, which is people value the latest winner in the NFL, the playoff runner, OC, as being the next head coach superstar, which I think is complete crap. And the NFL, coaching and managers and owners need to take a step back and say, wait a minute, let's look at the entire profile of a person before we make a decision on that's who the guy we believe can take our team to the next level, right? You need to be proven. You need to have a record that shows that you did something, that you achieved something, and you had a system that works, that you came into a team that was sucking and made them into something.
Well, that's a good segue because let's talk about my team for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Washington Commanders, right? This is who we got. Now, I'm going to tell you something because I'm sitting here and I got to tell you, Large Sarge, I watch a lot of videos on the Washington Commanders website, right? And I'm over there, and one of the ones I like listening to is the Command Center because they got some old players on there. They got Logan Paulson. They got Fred Smoot. They have Santana Moss, and they all got to give their commentary. And they love this signing. They'll just talk it. But then I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, why wouldn't they love the signing? They're paying their paychecks. They're not going to get on there and say, oh, this is a horrible signing. Of course, no matter who they pick, they would be like, oh, I like this signing. I like this signing. Especially Santana Moss. I hope he ends up watching this video because I followed Santana Moss's whole career. When Santana Moss would say something like, oh, yeah, that was all right. Yeah, I like that. What does that really mean? He hates it. Because he would tell you flat out, oh, it's the greatest thing ever if it was. But Santana Moss, when I watched him in that video, he was just like, no, I like the signing. Which is code to me, like he doesn't really like the signing. And I'm going to tell you something. Historically, coaches that come from inside the division or players that come inside the division don't fare out very well in Washington. I know a coach by the name of Norv Turner.
That is true. It's true.
It's just true. I know Norv Turner from back in the day, horrible. We got other players.
But he left and he was successful.
Well, that seems like everybody from
or that Norv Turner, or is it the system he's in, or who's the manager? The owner, and what causes that, right?
Well,
because he really went to and did something, right?
Yeah, we did go through 22 years of Dan Snyder. And I will tell you, that's another thing, and I didn't put a clip up here, but we got a new owner now. We have Josh.
Let's be clear. Dan Snyder was an asshole. Let's be clear, right? Everyone knows that, right? Everyone. He was known in the league for it. He's an asshole. So he's gone, and thank God.
He's gone. But and the verdict's still out to me on Josh Allen. Everybody's so happy. I think people are just happy that Dan Snyder's out. Anybody could have bought the team, and the guy would have walked in a walking celebrity. I'm not so sure about the new owner, Josh Allen. I hate to poop on everything about this team, but I'm pretty jaded dude.
So let's talk about
this team my whole life.
There, Coach Mike. Let's talk about Dan Quinn. All right.
Let's talk about
it. At the end of the day, he was not the Commanders' #1 pick, right?
No, it was Ben Johnson.
They kept missing. The Commanders kept missing. And finally they go, oh, Dan Quinn. Well, if I look at resumes, while I don't want to bring our #1 arch enemy's coach to our team, in the end of the day, I think it has some benefits. Not only does Dan Quinn have an outstanding resume, seriously, on defense, which the Commanders need, he knows what the Cowboys are doing. So could this be a good move? Yeah, he brought his #2 in. Yeah, I would expect the Commanders' defense to pick up some steam this year. I really would, based on what we've seen. Do I think it's going to happen and materialize and what the other things that the Commanders need this year, which is an offensive line?
Yeah, well, we'll get into players here for a second.
I don't know. We're going to look at the draft. We're going to look at free agency. We're going to see what the hell moves they make with all that cap space to see if they can shore up a line to protect a quarterback, any quarterback this year, with an offensive line.
Yeah, but let's talk a little bit more about Dan Quinn for a second here. The one thing I do like is he has prior head coaching experience, right? He spent all those years in Atlanta before he went to Dallas, right? But
got a good resume.
But we talked about this before in the offseason, when I knew Ron Rivera was out, and Ron Rivera needed to go badly. You and I were trashing him all season long.
I've never seen
time he looked disengaged
coaching in my life than Ron Rivera.
Oh my God!
How the hell do you decide to get rid of your bookend tight ends? Both of them in the same season, one of which you didn't gain any advantage on in the draft because you gave him away for a 3rd-round pick, which you would have had anyway. Let him play the season. What the hell did you do?
Chase Young, you gave away for a 3rd-round compensatory pick, which you would have gotten a 3rd-round compensatory pick anyway.
But you give him to San Francisco, who goes all the way to the freaking championship game. How stupid can you be, Ron Rivera?
Yeah, I don't get it. And I was a huge Montez Sweat fan.
Absolutely.
A 2nd-round pick was not good enough for me. A 2nd-round pick was not good enough for me.
No.
So, to me, you keep him. You want to get rid of Chase Young, and you feel like he's peaked.
He's a locker room problem. He's not doing what he's supposed to do on the field. I get it. He's running amok.
If you think he's a bust, okay, but finish out the year. I mean, unless you can get a 2nd round for him, I just don't see the point.
Coach Mad Mike, you tell me what other team in the NFL would give up not 1, but 2 top Pro Bowl defensive ends.
I will tell you, I don't think
I've would do both. And further, tell me, as a defensive coordinator, as a defensive-minded head coach, how you would do that.
Yeah,
tell me what other coach would have made that decision, and for what?
I tell you what, I am a defensive guy, and I am a defensive coach, and I am one of those things, right? And so, to me, it's absolutely something I would never do. I wouldn't do it in Madden. I didn't do it in Madden when I played franchise mode.
Yeah, tell the team here what you did in Madden with the exact same franchise and the exact same system. Tell them what you did.
Yeah, I ended up signing both of them. I had to sign Chase Young first because
wait. Which version of Madden so everyone knows?
It was 23.
23, okay.
It was Madden 23. I didn't buy Madden 24 because I was on this 40-year campaign kind of thing, which I found out I can only play 30 seasons.
By the way, just for your audience, this guy has played 30 seasons of Madden 23 franchise with the Commanders. He knows the team.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you know from being a Madden player, right? But
Not
like,
bragging, just saying a fact.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it, and I never did that before. And truth be told, I wanted to do 40, but they made me retire after 30. So I guess it only goes to 30. So
less Madden.
Anyway, but going back to
Coach Mad Mike decided to keep Young and Sweat and spend his salary cap to keep him, and went on to win consecutive Super Bowls in Madden, which we know isn't real life, but it's telling as to what the possibilities could be.
My top 2 sack leaders in the history of the team playing in Madden was Chase Young and Montez Sweat. They were key. Now, what does that translate on to this? When they went out and got those guys, right? Because they were building them around, they're putting together this 4 horseman team that just never developed. You add in Deron Payne and you're adding Jonathan Allen to the mix of that, right? Chase Young was hurt most of the time in real life, right? Yep. And so it never fully all came together except for the beginning of this last season, and they were performing fairly well. They just needed to kind of get the ball going, and before you know it, you trade them both. Because I don't get it.
The Commanders could have let Young finish the season despite all the internal rumors about locker room issues, not following the play call on the field, etc. They could have let him finish and still wound up with the same damn pick.
That's true.
And could have kept their defense together, which might have got them a couple more games.
Hey, I want to talk to the people who are probably watching this show, right? Like, if you're going to be one of our first listeners and you're watching the show, put some comments down in there what you think about that. I want to hear people's comments.
And subscribe.
Yeah, I want to hear it. And, if you got questions off of that, I want to do it because we're going to probably answer some of your questions. But, I'm very interested from those who are listening to us right now. What do you think about that? Because, maybe some details that we don't know. But, I know that they were due, big salaries, and they were like, okay, we weren't so sure about it. We wanted to leverage, because Josh Allen now has his new team. He wanted to be able to kind of make it his own team, start young, build a dynasty. I get all that, right? But that's where you
tell you what, the Bears didn't have any question about it. The Bears picked up Sweat like nobody's business. And what happened to them when they picked him up? They immediately improved.
Immediately. Right. I mean, I get building through the draft, but you can bust on a lot of draft picks, right? So, I mean, when you got a good guy like Montez Sweat, I just don't see how you let him go out the building. I don't get it.
If you're a defensive-minded head coach like Ron Rivera, I love him. He's a great guy. He's a good guy, personal guy. Been through a lot of personal strife, etc. But you need to retire, dude. You have lost it. Seriously. You don't need to be in the NFL anymore. You're done.
Well, you know what? Ron Rivera
was just like utter idiocy.
Well, he wasn't signed. What I read this past week is he's now going to be an ESPN analyst. And why would we want him to analyze anything?
I don't want him analyzing anything because I don't regard anything he says as being good.
I mean, at this point, it's time for you to retire. It's just time for you to retire. And it was completely obvious because, they were looking at maybe Dallas was looking at him for DC, and then I think the Eagles were looking at him at DC. Two divisional teams were looking at him, and he walked in.
And they passed for a very good reason because he's not worth the salt. Sorry, not worth the money.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't see him staying with ESPN.
It's time to retire and be an analyst and call the plays on the field, and good for you. I'm very happy for you.
I'm very interested on how much FaceTime he gets on ESPN to analyze anything.
He'll get it. He'll get
a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see that.
He's very respected. He is a respected coach. I mean, come on, seriously.
Well, I mean, I got his days.
But as a head coach of the Commanders, he was an utter failure. Utter failure. He did not do the Commanders any favors whatsoever.
I will tell you what I do give him credit for, because there is something that I want to give him credit for.
All right.
And it's hard. I got to reach a little bit. But here's what I want to give him credit for. he had a horrific owner in Daniel Snyder.
Yes.
And he had to go through a very, very painstakingly difficult rebranding
Yes.
of the team. From the Redskins to the football team to then the Commanders, which was like 18-month, 24-month process, whatever it was. He had to live through all that. Plus,
Coach Mad Mike, that does not mean that you can forgive the fundamentals and the call play on the field. Sorry. That does not mean you can forgive bad draft calls. That does not mean you can't.
He wasn't charged of it all. He wasn't charged of it all. There wasn't a GM making those calls.
Those fundamentals, no matter who your owner is, no matter who the owner is, or who your GM is, what you call on the field that day and who you move and who you trade and who you get rid of is all on you. I'm sorry. I don't give him anything. I'm sorry. The Commanders had a good team and they blew it.
Yeah. I mean, I get you on that one. So one of the things I wanted to talk to too, because there's so many more things that are going on with this freaking team. Like they basically clean house, right? They clean house, and like the very first thing, besides the first decision that that our illustrious owner did, Josh Harris, he turned around and got rid of the 2 bookend tight ends during the season. That was his pre-week 8 moves. And he didn't do anything else for the offseason because he wanted to kind of ride things out. I thought he should have fired Ron Rivera probably around week 8, but he decided to hold on to him for the whole year. And then his first move in the offseason was getting general manager Adam Peters. And I'm not so sure. Everybody loves this guy. He was the number 1 general manager out there, and I wasn't so sure about him either.
Why, Coach Mad Mike? Why? The guy's never been an actual GM. He's been an assistant. How is he so beloved? How did he earn his reputation to become a GM? Where did he ever put his mark on a team to get that role?
Yeah.
I don't personally see it. I call him a failure.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say he's necessarily a failure, but like he was the number 1 prospect, really? Because when I look at it, and I get it, everybody's going dumb because everybody loves this guy. Like, I don't understand. Like, everybody loves him. So if you're listening to the show and you're one of those guys that loves him, put your comments down here because I need to understand. Like, I'm trying to understand. Why is this guy so loved?
What is it that he did in San Francisco that is so overriding that he put his thumbprint on that makes him qualified to be the GM?
Well, this is what I think of, like, when I look back on his career, because I looked at his resume, because obviously I'm going to look at the guy's resume, right? They're like, okay, well, he was in New England and helped build some of those New England teams. Like, really? I'm just like, because they had Tom Brady. Like, they had a bunch of players coming in and out of the door, right? And, oh, by the way, if I recall right, Bill Belichick made about every freaking move. So, like, how much power did you have to make a move? Really?
How much of a thumbprint did he have?
Yeah. I mean, are you in the room going, oh, yes, boss? Yep.
Did the Commanders succumb to the hype? Or did they really do their homework and get the best person possible?
Well, yeah. But then you watch
this year. We'll see this year.
Well, yeah, but then you continue to watch him. You watch him when he leaves New England. He goes from New England. Where did he go? He went to Denver?
Yeah.
So he went to Denver, and he's under John Elway. Who's making the calls there? Then he leaves there, and he goes to the 49ers. And he's under John Lynch. Who's making the calls there? So I get it, you're an assistant, but, like, I need to, like, understand a little bit more, like, how did this guy really grade out? And I guess we will see because the draft's going to be next month.
Yeah, we're going to see how good he is because they didn't have a head coach before the what's that game there, Coach Mad Mike, that they go to, the high school game? What's that thing? Where they go scout?
Are you talking about the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, Senior Bowl. So he was there at the Senior
Bowl.
High
school, that's college, but yeah, the college seniors go to the Senior Bowl. And I know he went to that.
Right. So we'll see what comes out of that.
Then, but he went.
Yeah, we'll see what comes out of that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the last thing here, and then we gotta cut it, man, because we've been going for a while. Let's talk about the signing of Zach Ertz from the Lions, which is this thing here. What do you guys think about that? Place your comments below. Is it a good hire for a 1 year? I'm 100% behind that signing. I think that is
100%.
the best move they can make.
100%. You're 100%.
110%. Zach Ertz is the guy. But you know why? Because they got rid of Thomas. They got no one behind him. Zach Ertz is a Pro Bowler. Zach Ertz has the talent. Zach Ertz can coach the other guys up. I think it's a great signing for a 1 year contract.
Okay. Well,
I'm pissed at the Lions for letting him go personally, but that's just me.
Well, I mean, what did he do at the Lions?
Nothing. They signed him on to the end of the playoffs as a backup.
That's right. I mean, he didn't do anything.
He's 33. I get it. He's
here's the part with me.
Stayed injury free. He's healthy.
He didn't take the field.
A lot.
He wasn't even on the field.
Exactly. He's
healthy.
So
here's the part.
He's healthy.
So I get getting rid of Logan Thomas because we went down the Logan Thomas train for a while, right? And I was never a Logan Thomas fan.
I know.
You've heard me for years.
I love Thomas, but I know you were against him.
If Logan Thomas is listening to this thing, if you ever listen to this thing, like I'm not crapping on you, dude, because or anything like that. But I've never been a huge fan of the fit.
He brings multiple team knowledge. He brings play knowledge, and I think he'll be able to be a great resource in the locker room for any other tight end that they pick up.
Okay.
And I think he will produce on the field.
I think he needed to go. But here's where I'm not 100% on Zach Ertz. One, he is 33. Two, his deal could be worth up to $5 million, which I think is a high price.
For a 33-year-old, yeah, but you pay for talent and knowledge.
Yeah, I think we could have got him cheaper than just because you got a lot of cap space means you don't just go willy-nilly and start spinning it.
Agreed.
He's one of those that I think I would have had on my marker board as somebody that I'm looking at, but you don't sign him.
What would you have paid Zach Ertz there, Coach Mad Mike? What would you have paid him?
Probably about 2.
Zach Ertz wouldn't come for 2. He had to be with the Lions. I disagree with you. You needed more. You need to bring more to the table to get Zach Ertz. He's got a name.
He wouldn't have stayed with the Lions because the Lions didn't want to keep him. Otherwise, they would have extended him.
Good point.
So I mean,
who knows in these things? We're not agents.
Because here's how I look at it. When you're 30,
I think the Commanders got a great deal at $5 million on a 1 year contract. I think they got a great deal.
Overpaid because here's the way I look at it is the guy was bouncing around last year. And he ended up on the Lions, but didn't play. Believe me, the Lions didn't pay no $5 million for him.
No, because we picked him up as a backup, right? In case of injury. That's what we did.
He played league minimum, which tells me that's about where his value is.
And by the way, Zach Ertz had great things to say about Dan Campbell, about his coaching style and about his methodology. He had nothing
right here on this slide
for him. So it's like, okay, whatever, but you still didn't get to the damn Super Bowl. So, okay.
But
I think it's the Commanders win. I think that guy is going to produce for the Commanders this year. You watch.
Yeah. But he's a Band-Aid because, he's 33 years old. And I tell you who I do like. I like Cole Turner. Cole Turner is just one of my favorite tight ends there. He was a third string last year, but I think he has a lot of potential. One thing I do like about it is if he does get behind a guy like Zach Ertz, he can develop him a lot. Because
exactly.
Development.
Exactly. That's why it's a great signing for the Commanders.
I just think it's a little bit high priced because I think we probably could have got him a lot less.
Hey, man,
we can disagree about that.
You got to pay for talent, man.
But, I think that this has been an extraordinarily fun, first kind of thing. I'm going to play our music again because I think we need to finish up rocking out.
Yeah.
And, we just got to do it, buddy. We got to do it. We got to jam out. And, I really appreciate everybody who's on here. Thank you so much for being there for our very first launch of our football site. And I really hope you guys enjoyed it here. Any parting words there, Large Sarge?
Love you guys. Like, subscribe, and stay in tune.
Stay tuned, baby, and keep making your comments, man, because you know what? If you post some comments, you make some good comments, we will put them on this show. And we just look forward to having you guys next time. All right? Sayonara, everybody.